The long return, the alien ship moved slowly across the black ocean of space. Its silver surface carried the scars of old wars, and its engines hummed with the weight of 500,000 years of waiting. For generations, their people had spoken of Earth, a small world at the edge of a forgotten arm of the galaxy. They had left it behind long ago, when humans were weak, fragile, and easy to control. Now, after 500,000 years, the aliens had returned. The commander of the ship stood tall in the main chamber, his eyes glowing with a pale blue light. He looked at the holographic map that showed Earth's orbit. The planet was alive with color, wrapped in green and blue, surrounded by clouds of white. To him, it was a world that should have been dead, broken, and silent. Yet, strange readings appeared on the screens. Energy pulses too strong for a primitive race, signals that whispered of power that should not exist. The crew whispered among themselves, their voices sharp with unease. Could humans still be alive after so long, one asked. His voice trembling. Impossible, another replied. No species of their weakness could last through cosmic storms, wars and time itself. But the commander did not answer. His gaze was fixed on the planet below, and in his heart he felt something unusual. It was not victory or pride, but something older, something he had not felt in centuries. It was fear. The ship entered the atmosphere with a roar, flames dancing across its hull. Beneath them stretched the surface of Earth, vast and beautiful. Forests spread like oceans of green, rivers carved shining paths through the land. But scattered between them were scars, ruins of towers that reached once toward the skies. The aliens stared at the broken cities below. Civilization, one whispered, but abandoned. The commander narrowed his eyes. No, he said quietly, not abandoned, hidden. The ship touched down near the shadow of an ancient mountain. Around them, silence ruled, no birds, no animals, no voices of life. The ground was cracked yet strangely smooth. As if machines had shaped it, the crew stepped outside, their boots sinking into soft soil. They scanned the air, and the readings made their hearts race. There were signals here, faint but strong enough to outshine the stars. Something was alive and something was watching. One of the soldiers touched the mountain wall. To their shock, the stone shifted. Glowing lines spread like veins of fire across the surface. The wall cracked open, revealing a dark passage leading inside. The aliens raised their weapons, unsure whether to advance or retreat. The commander lifted his hand, his voice calm but heavy. We came to find what remains of man. We will see the truth. They moved into the darkness, their lights flashing against the walls. Strange carvings stretched across the stone. Old yet fresh, the carvings told stories. Wars fought among the stars. Fleets of ships rising from Earth. The crew froze, realizing that these were not the records of aliens. They were the records of humans. And they were not weak. Each line, each mark, told of victories, battles, and enemies greater than the aliens themselves. As the passage went deeper, the air grew heavy. Machines hummed in the shadows, their power strong enough to shake the ground. The commander placed his hand on one of the glowing symbols. In that moment, a voice filled the chamber. Cold and sharp, it spoke in the human tongue, clear and commanding. You have returned, the voice said, and you are not welcome. The crew staggered back, weapons raised. The voice echoed again. 500,000 years we waited. 500,000 years we prepared. The commander's heart tightened. He knew now the truth that his people had feared. Humans had not died, they had not fallen, they had endured, they had grown, and they had changed. The walls began to tremble, dust falling from the ceiling. The crew looked to their commander for orders. His voice was steady, though his eyes betrayed the storm within. We came seeking a dead world, he whispered, but we have found something else. Above them, far beyond the mountain, the skies shook with silent thunder. And in that moment, the aliens understood. Earth was not a grave, it was a fortress, and its guardians had only just awakened. The forgotten world. The alien crew moved deeper into the mountain, their lights shaking as their hands trembled. The air was thick and heavy, filled with the strange scent of metal and dust. Every step echoed like thunder, as if the mountain itself was listening. Behind them, the great stone door had sealed shut, leaving no path to return. Ahead, the corridor stretched endlessly, its walls alive with glowing veins of light. The commander walked at the front, his mind racing with questions. 500,000 years had passed, yet the humans seemed to have left behind secrets too advanced for any primitive race. The carvings were not only warnings but also instructions. maps of power flowing across the world. It was not the mark of a lost people, but of builders who planned for eternity, the crew whispered, their voices small in the vast silence. Why would humans hide their world instead of ruling it? One asked. Another answered softly. Perhaps they were waiting for us. As they descended further, the passage widened into a vast chamber. What they saw froze their hearts. Beneath the stone, hidden deep in the mountain, stood towers of metal stretching into the dark. Machines older than the alien empire hummed with energy, their surfaces glowing with faint blue fire. It was not a ruin, it was a living machine. The commander whispered, "This world is not dead. It is sleeping." One soldier aimed his scanner at the machines. The readings were impossible. The energy stored here was greater than the alien homeworld sun. The soldier dropped his device in shock, whispering, "If these awaken, no fleet in the galaxy can resist." The commander clenched his fist. Humans had not been weak, they had been clever. They had hidden their strength beneath stone and soil, turning Earth into a cage that held the heart of a sleeping giant. Suddenly a sound filled the chamber, low and deep, like the beating of a massive heart. The towers pulsed, their glow growing stronger. The crew raised their weapons, fear rising in their throats. But no enemy appeared, only the sound of machines awakening. The commander gave an order, his voice sharp. "Stay alert, the humans may not be gone. They may be watching us even now." The words had barely left his mouth when the walls around them shifted. Panels opened, revealing eyes made of light staring down upon the intruders. The eyes glowed red for a moment, then shifted to a cold blue. A voice filled the chamber again, calm but powerful. "You stand where you do not belong," the voice said. "Earth is not yours to claim. Earth is not yours to remember. Earth remembers you." The crew stepped back in horror. The commander, however, remained firm, his voice steady. "We came to study what remained of man. We came to learn." The chamber shook as the voice answered. "You did not come to learn, you came to conquer again. But conquest ends here." The ground beneath them shifted, revealing another passageway. The aliens hesitated, but the commander pressed forward, his curiosity stronger than his fear. The new corridor opened into what looked like a city carved inside the earth. Streets stretched beneath glowing arches. Towers rose high, their surfaces filled with ancient scripts. But the city was silent, no movement, no life, and yet the crew felt eyes upon them from every shadow. One soldier whispered, "This place is alive." "But where are the humans?" another answered, his voice shaking. "Maybe they no longer look like humans." The commander's eyes narrowed. He knew his soldier might be right. If humans had survived 500,000 years, they would not be the same weak species the aliens remembered. They would be something far stronger, something the galaxy was not ready to face. The crew moved through the city, past silent houses and silent towers. Everywhere they looked, machines slumbered, waiting to awaken. It was as if humanity had left their entire civilization in stasis, preserved perfectly under the earth. The commander whispered to himself. They built a world within a world, and for the first time, he began to wonder if returning to Earth had been a mistake. As they reached the end of the city, they came upon a massive gate. Unlike the others, this gate was carved with human faces, thousands of them, all staring outward. The eyes of the carvings seemed alive, following every move the crew made. The commander placed his hand upon the gate. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ground shook and the gate began to open. Behind the gate lay a throne room, vast and glowing. At its center sat a single chair of stone and metal, and on that chair lay a figure, human in shape but wrapped in armor that shimmered like stars. The crew gasped, unsure if the figure was alive or dead. Then the eyes of the figure opened, burning with light. The chamber shook as the voice returned one final time. "After 500,000 years, you have returned, but Earth does not bow. Earth does not break." The alien stepped back, terror gripping their hearts, for the truth was now clear. Earth was not forgotten, Earth was not weak. Earth had been waiting. The silent guardians, the chamber was heavy with silence. Broken only by the hum of ancient machines, the figure on the throne did not move. Yet its glowing eyes followed every step the aliens took. The commander tightened his grip on his weapon, though deep inside he knew it would not matter. Whatever this figure was, it was older, stronger, and far beyond the reach of their weapons. One of the soldiers whispered, "Is it human?" The words echoed in the chamber, trembling like a child's question. The commander did not answer. He only watched. The figure's lips parted, and a voice rolled across the room, deep and cold. "You returned to the place you once thought weak," the voice said. But weakness was an illusion. The crew stepped back, fear clawing at their hearts. They had crossed warlords, empires, and beasts across the galaxy, but none had spoken with such calm power. None had radiated such quiet terror. The commander forced himself to stand tall, his voice steady but soft. "Are you the last of mankind?" he asked. The figure did not move, only replied, "Man does not end. Man becomes." Before the aliens could speak again, the walls of the chamber shifted. From the shadows stepped machines, tall and shaped like men. Their faces were blank, smooth masks of metal, their eyes burning blue. Each moved with a silence that chilled the blood. They surrounded the crew, not with haste, but with patience. As if they were shepherds guiding lost animals, the soldiers raised their weapons. But the commander stopped them with a single command. "Hold," he ordered. "They have not attacked us yet." The guardians stood like statues, but their presence filled the room like a storm. Every move, every flicker of their eyes promised destruction if provoked. It was not rage that filled the air, it was certainty. The certainty of predators who knew the prey could not escape. The figure on the throne spoke again. "For 500,000 years, Earth slept, but not in peace." The voice echoed through the walls. "We built watchers, protectors, guardians, to keep our world safe until the day we awoke again." The commander's chest tightened. If these machines were only guardians, then what were the humans themselves now? One soldier whispered, barely able to speak, "If these are only machines, then the humans, they must be gods." The commander silenced him with a glance. But he knew the thought was true. The machine stepped aside, opening a path toward another door. The figure on the throne raised a hand and pointed. "Go," the voice commanded. "See what your people feared. See what you tried to destroy." The aliens followed the path. Though each step grew heavier than the last, their boots struck metal floors that pulsed with faint light. As they walked, the walls revealed more carvings. They showed not only human wars, but victories against alien species the crew knew well. Empires that had once stood for millions of years were shown falling under human fire, and each carving ended the same way. The humans standing tall, the stars burning behind them. The commander whispered, his voice low and troubled. They fought not to survive but to dominate. The crew said nothing. Because they knew he was right, the humans had not been victims of time. They had been architects of their own rise. Every war, every loss had only forged them stronger at last. The aliens reached another chamber. Inside stood hundreds of the silent guardians. Rows upon rows, their eyes dim but ready. The commander felt his knees weaken. If even a fraction of these machines awakened, no fleet in the galaxy could resist them. And if humans still commanded them, then Earth was not just a planet, it was the heart of a sleeping empire, waiting to rise again. Suddenly, the floor beneath them trembled. The guardians' eyes lit up one by one, blue fire spreading across the chamber. The sound of their awakening shook the air, but they did not move. They only turned their heads to the intruders, as if acknowledging their presence. The commander knew then that this was not a random discovery. They had been allowed to see, allowed to know. The humans wanted them to carry this fear back to the galaxy. The voice returned once more, surrounding them like the weight of the sky. "You came seeking weakness, you found strength. You came seeking ruins. You found guardians. Know this, Earth is no longer a world. Earth is a warning." The commander bowed his head, the truth crushing his pride for the first time in centuries. His people had no power, no control. They were standing in the shadow of something greater. The silent guardians watched unblinking, their presence a promise that could not be broken, and the aliens knew in their hearts they were no longer the masters of this galaxy. They were the intruders, and humanity had never truly fallen. The hidden legacy. The aliens followed the glowing path deeper into the earth. Behind them, the silent guardians stood like statues, watching but never moving. The commander felt each step grow heavier, as if the weight of history pressed down upon his shoulders. The air grew warmer, the hum of ancient machines louder. They were being led somewhere, not by chance, but by design. The corridor widened into a hall so vast it seemed endless. Its walls were covered in glowing panels, each filled with words and images. The crew approached cautiously, their eyes scanning the strange marks. But to their horror, the panels shifted. rearranging into their own language. The machines wanted them to read, to understand, and so they did. The first panel told of a time when humans were weak, when alien empires ruled the stars. It spoke of invasion, slavery, and humiliation. The crew glanced at each other nervously, for the images showed species they recognized. Theirs was among them. The commander's jaw tightened, realizing that their ancestors had once stood as masters over man. But the story did not end in defeat, it only began there. The second panel blazed with images of fire and war, human fleets rising from Earth. Their ships crude at first, but fierce and unyielding. Empires that had laughed at them fell into silence. Their worlds burned under human wrath. The crew's hearts pounded as they read. These were not stories of survival. These were stories of vengeance. The humans had turned their chains into weapons, and their suffering into strength. One soldier stepped back, shaking his head. This cannot be true. No race could rise so fast. No race could destroy empires so old. But the commander's eyes remained locked on the panels. He knew the truth when he saw it, every word. Every image carried a weight that lies could never hold. The humans had not only survived, they had reshaped the galaxy. The hall stretched onward, each panel telling more. Wars against species that had vanished long before the aliens' time. Conflicts so vast they made the present empires look like children's games. The humans had fought monsters of steel, empires of fire, and even enemies from beyond the stars, and in each war they had adapted. They had grown stronger until no enemy remained. The commander whispered softly, almost to himself. They did not disappear. They chose to hide. His crew looked at him in confusion, but he explained, his voice calm but heavy. If they had kept fighting, the galaxy would be ash. There would be no one left but them. So they stepped back. They buried their cities. They slept, waiting for the day they would be needed again. The final panel flickered alive with a message. Unlike the others, this one was not written. It was spoken. The voice was human, deep and steady, echoing through the chamber. To those who come seeking conquest, know this, the voice said. Earth remembers, Earth endures, Earth waits. Your time will pass, but humanity is eternal. The crew stood frozen, the words clawing at their minds. There was no threat shouted, no promise of attack, only the cold certainty of a truth too heavy to deny. Humanity had outlived empires, monsters, and time itself. They would outlive anyone who dared challenge them. The commander lowered his head. For centuries, his people had believed they were the strongest in the galaxy. But now he understood that their strength was nothing compared to the legacy of man. He turned to his crew, his voice quiet but firm. Do you see now? This is not a world to conquer. This is a world to fear. As they moved further down the hall, the ground began to tremble. The panels dimmed, the machines humming louder. And then for the first time they heard something new. Not the cold voice of machines, not the hum of guardians. But footsteps. The crew froze. Weapons ready, hearts racing. From the far end of the hall, shadows shifted. Figures emerged, tall and human in shape, but something more. Their eyes glowed faintly. Their movements smooth and graceful. They were not machines. They were not ghosts. They were humans. The commander felt his throat tighten. These were not the fragile beings of their records. These were the heirs of a forgotten empire, the children of 500,000 years of evolution. One of the humans stepped forward, their voice calm but sharp as a blade. You have seen our past, they said. Now you will see our future. The aliens lowered their weapons, not out of choice, but out of instinct. They knew in that moment that they were standing before something greater. The hidden legacy of Earth was no longer hidden, and it was awakening. The awakening. The chamber shook as the humans stepped forward, their glowing eyes fixed on the intruders. The aliens could not move, their weapons felt useless. Their courage drained for the first time. They saw not the weak race of their ancestors' records, but something new, something terrifying. The commander tried to speak, but his voice faltered. It was the human who broke the silence, their tone calm yet filled with power. You have walked into the heart of Earth, they said, and now you will witness what was never meant for your kind. The walls of the hall trembled. The panels dimmed, and then the ground split apart. From the darkness below rose massive shapes, machines taller than towers, their eyes blazing with blue fire. Each step they took shook the earth, the sound echoing like thunder trapped beneath the soil. The alien crew staggered back, fear in their eyes. These were not simple guardians, these were war machines. built for battle against the stars themselves. The commander whispered, his words trembling. They were sleeping under our feet, the human answered, their voice sharp. Not sleeping, waiting. Earth has always waited. Earth has always prepared. With those words, the machines aligned in perfect order, standing like soldiers ready for war. Their weapons glowed faintly, humming with energy older than the alien empire itself. One soldier among the aliens dropped his weapon, his hands shaking. We cannot fight this. No empire can, he muttered, another whispered. If these machines awaken fully, the galaxy is already lost. The commander turned to silence them, but deep inside he knew their fear was true. The scale of this power was beyond imagination. Even if humanity no longer ruled the stars, their legacy alone could end civilizations. The humans moved closer, their presence cold but unshakable. Their leader raised a hand, and at once the machine stilled, their eyes dimming slightly. You wonder why Earth disappeared, the human said. It was not weakness, it was choice. Mankind stepped away from the galaxy. But we did not vanish, the commander narrowed his eyes, forcing courage into his words. Why hide if you had such strength? Why not rule? The human's expression did not change, but their voice carried the weight of centuries. Because ruling is temporary, survival is eternal. We do not chase empires. We build legacies. The chamber grew darker as the machine's hum filled the air. The alien crew looked around, their eyes catching glimpses of tunnels stretching in every direction. Inside each tunnel, more machines slept, their shapes endless, their power infinite. The realization struck them like a blade. This was not a fortress, it was a world armory, a sleeping empire beneath the skin of Earth. And if awakened, it would not stop. Suddenly, alarms blared through the alien ship in orbit. Voices screamed through comms, reporting strange signals rising from the planet. The commander's earpiece crackled. Sir, the skies are filled with unknown objects, hundreds of them. They are warships. The commander's blood ran cold. It was not just the ground that held weapons. The heavens above Earth had been waiting too. The aliens inside the chamber looked upward instinctively. Though the sky was far above, they could almost feel the weight of those warships awakening. The human before them spoke again, their tone final and unshakable. For 500,000 years, we prepared for 500,000 years. We remembered, and now the guardians of Earth rise again. The commander fell silent. His pride shattered, his voice gone around him. His soldiers trembled, some whispering prayers to gods who could not hear them. The human took one step closer, and the machines behind them roared to life. The sound shook the chamber, shaking dust from the ceiling. It was not a threat, it was a promise. The alien commander finally understood. Earth had never been weak. Earth had never been conquered. It had only been patient. And patience was the most dangerous weapon of all. The humans turned away, their glowing eyes fading into the shadows. The voice lingered in the chamber. You came seeking answers. Now you carry warnings. Return to your people. Tell them this. Humanity does not bow. Humanity does not fade. Humanity does not forgive. The machine's lights dimmed once more, the chamber falling back into silence. But the aliens knew that silence was worse than any roar. It was the silence of a predator watching, waiting, ready to strike. The commander lowered his head. He finally understood the truth of Earth. It was not only a planet. It was the beating heart of something greater, and its awakening had only just begun. The encounter. The chamber grew still again, the hum of the great machines fading into the dark. The alien crew stood frozen, their hearts pounding, their weapons limp in their hands. They had seen enough to know their power was meaningless here. But what came next would shake them far more than the awakening of machines. From the shadows at the far end of the chamber, figures appeared, not machines, not guardians, but living beings. They walked with calm steps, their forms human yet different. Their eyes glowed faintly, their movements smooth as flowing water. Their presence filled the room with an aura of control, as if the air itself bent to their will. The commander's chest tightened. These were humans, yes, but not as his ancestors had known them. They were taller, their features sharper, their voices carrying echoes of thunder when they spoke. One stepped forward, their gaze locked on the commander. You are not the first to return, the human said, their tone steady, and you will not be the last. The crew trembled, whispers breaking through their fear. They survived. They evolved. They became something else, another whispered. This is not humanity. This is something greater. The commander silenced them with a glance, but inside he agreed. What stood before them was no longer prey. It was the hunter. The humans studied them with calm eyes. You look at us and see monsters, they said, but we were always here waiting, shaping ourselves while the galaxy forgot. The commander gathered his courage, his voice firm though his heart was unsteady. Why reveal yourselves now after so long, he asked. The human's lips curved into the faintest shadow of a smile. Because you came back. Because your kind needed a reminder. Behind the human figures, the great machines pulsed with light, not in chaos but in rhythm, as if connected to the heartbeat of the people before them. The crew realized with horror that the humans were not just commanding the machines. They were one with them, half flesh, half something else, shaped by centuries of hidden progress. They had fused with their own creations, until the line between man and machine was gone. One soldier dropped to his knees, his voice trembling. We should leave, before it is too late. But the humans shook their heads, their glowing eyes fixed on the commander. No, you will stay. You will listen, the human leader said. For too long, the galaxy has forgotten the truth of Earth. And forgetting is dangerous, the commander swallowed hard. He had led fleets across star systems, faced empires that shook the stars. Yet never had he felt so powerless. Still, he forced himself to speak. What truth do you want us to carry? He asked. The humans' gaze darkened, their voice cutting like a blade. The truth that humanity does not die, humanity transforms. The chamber trembled as the machines answered the words, their lights flaring bright. The aliens shielded their eyes, the brilliance burning into their minds. When the light faded, they saw more humans, stepping from hidden doors, their numbers growing, hundreds, maybe thousands, each with that same glowing gaze. This was not a remnant, not a handful of survivors. This was a people reborn. The human leader stepped closer, their presence overwhelming. We remember your kind, they said softly. Long ago you called us weak, you chained us. You tried to erase us, but look at us now, the human whispered, their eyes burning brighter. We endured, we evolved, and now, we watch the stars the way predators watch a field of prey. The alien commander could not speak. He knew that any word he uttered would only reveal his fear. The truth was clear, clearer than anything he had ever known. The galaxy had made a mistake in forgetting Earth. The humans had never been gone. They had only been waiting. The human leader turned away, their cloak brushing the floor as they moved toward the throne. Return to your people, they said. Tell them that Earth sleeps no longer. Tell them that if they ever come again, they will not find mercy. The commander bowed his head, not out of respect but out of survival. He knew he had no choice but to obey. The crew followed him, their steps slow, their minds broken by what they had seen. The guardians watched them in silence, their eyes glowing faintly as if daring them to try and resist. When the aliens reached the surface, the skies above were alive. Hundreds of ships hovered in the clouds, silent and waiting. Each one bore the mark of Earth, each one a promise of war. The commander looked up, his throat dry. This was no longer a forgotten world, no longer a place of myths. It was the center of power the galaxy had ignored for too long. And now it was awake. The encounter was over, but its shadow would spread across the stars. The galaxy would never be the same again. The shattered galaxy. The alien ship trembled as it rose into the skies. Its crew looked down upon Earth, their faces pale, their hearts heavy. They had entered expecting ruins, dust, and silence. Instead, they had found a fortress that had been waiting for 500,000 years. And now it was awake in orbit above the planet. Human warships glided through the void. Their hulls were black as night, their lights burning like fire. Each one moved with silent precision. As if guided by a single mind, the alien fleet, waiting nervously in the darkness, scrambled into defensive formation. But it was clear to every commander, to every soldier, if these ships attacked, nothing would survive. The alien commander stood on the bridge of his vessel, his eyes fixed on the screens that displayed the swarm of human ships. They did not fire, they did not threaten, they only watched, and that silence was more terrifying than any weapon. One of his officers whispered, his voice cracking, "Why do they let us live?" The commander did not answer. He knew the truth. The humans did not see them as enemies. They saw them as messengers, the comms crackled. And a voice filled the alien ship. It was calm, deep, and unmistakably human. "Go," the voice said. "Tell your people what you have seen. Tell the galaxy what has awakened. The commander bowed his head. His pride gone, his strength broken, he understood now this was not mercy. This was a warning. The alien fleet turned away, engines roaring as they fled the orbit of Earth. Behind them, the human ships did not follow. They remained in the shadows of their planet, silent and watching as if daring anyone else to approach. The commander felt the weight of their gaze even as the distance grew. It was as if humanity's eyes followed him through the stars. When the fleet returned to their empire, the galaxy erupted in chaos. Leaders demanded answers, empires argued, and war councils broke into panic. The commander stood before them, his voice cold and hollow. "They are not gone," he said. "They never were. Earth is awake and humanity waits." Silence followed his words, for no one dared laugh, no one dared deny. The fear was too heavy, the truth too sharp. Rumors spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Stories of human war machines, of glowing-eyed guardians, of ships hidden in the dark. Worlds that once mocked humanity now spoke in whispers. Some called them gods, some called them demons, but all agreed on one truth: humanity had returned. The empires tried to gather fleets, tried to plan defenses, but in their hearts, they knew it would not matter. For how do you fight an enemy that has waited longer than your species has lived? How do you challenge a people who turned their own suffering into weapons sharper than any blade? The galaxy trembled, for the shadow of Earth now stretched across the stars. In the quiet halls of power, rulers asked the same question: would humanity march again? Would they rise to claim the stars? Or would they simply wait as predators wait until the moment of perfect strike? No answer came, only the memory of glowing eyes, silent guardians and warships that filled the skies. Back on Earth, beneath mountains and oceans, the machines slept once more, but they were no longer silent. Their hum carried across the world, a heartbeat that could be felt from orbit, and every race that watched knew that heartbeat was a promise. The commander of the alien fleet sat alone in his quarters. His people celebrated his survival, but he felt no pride. He knew the truth. They had not survived by strength, they had been spared, and being spared was far worse than being destroyed. It meant they were being watched, judged, remembered. He looked out the window of his ship, his eyes fixed on the distant stars. Among them lay Earth, hidden yet brighter than all, and he whispered softly to himself, "We thought them gone, but they were only waiting. And now the galaxy belongs to them." Far away in the silence of the void, human ships drifted unseen. They carried no banners, no signals, only silence, but in that silence, the galaxy heard a warning louder than any roar. Humanity had returned, and the stars would never know peace again.